Many of us are huge fans of do-it-yourself. We love to know a few things we can do when things break down or require fixing at home, in our cars or the office. And that is good. A little technical knowledge of things around would do good. It would save you trips to the carpenter or mechanic. It would also save you from spending the money you would have given to, say, a plumber to fix a leaking sink. You could also use the money to get yourself something else. If you are a fan of do-it-yourself, one of the tools that should not be missing in your toolbox at home or in the car is the torque wrench. What are torque wrenches? Torque wrenches are tools that are used to cause rotation of fastening objects. These fastening objects that torques are used on are usually nuts and bolts. The torque wrench can be used to either tighten or loosen the nuts and bolts. Torque wrenches are very important if you have a car. It could save your day when you are stuck with a flat tire and you need a change. What is the marked difference between the torque wrench and other normal wrenches? Torque wrenches are slightly more difficult to use than normal wrenches. They also look different from other wrenches and can confuse even some experts if they are not told how to use them. The torque wrench has a measuring scale that tells accurately the amount of torque that is on every nut and bolt it comes across. The measuring system is usually labeled in foot-pounds or Newton meters. This can be interchanged either manually or using the conversion system that is already present on the torque wrench. Even among torque wrenches, there are some differences. Torque wrenches have varying accuracy. This means that a torque wrench can be better than another because of how it was manufactured. The electronic torque wrench is different from the mechanical torque wrench too. Generally, torque wrenches have an inbuilt electric or mechanical alert system that notifies you when you are approaching a torque level. They can do this by beeping or vibrating or switching on a notification light. The torque wrench indicates these torque levels to avoid over-tightening that may affect and damage your nut or bolt. Over-tightening can cause a nut and bolt to crack, break or loosen. Engineers who make cars and other machines assign a specified torque amount on every part of the car or machine that has a nut or a bolt. But most people do not know because this information is in the user manual of your car, and well, how many people read manuals nowadays? When you are unaware of this specific torque, you might be in danger of under or over tightening. It is usually the latter. Even mechanics over-tight sometimes. They and majority of other users just keep going until the nut or bolt can no longer turn. If the nut or bolt is not tight enough, they could just come loose and fall out one day while you are speeding in your car to that important appointment. If it is over tight, you may be damaging the nuts and the bolts. The bolt shank may break, or the threads can give way and there would be nothing holding the nut or bolt at all. So, the best option is to use a torque wrench. What can you use the torque wrench to do? In motor cars, there are various parts where the torque wrench can be used. This is why having it in your car's toolbox is not negotiable. The torque wrench can be used to fasten the bolts on the head of the engine cylinder, connecting rod bolts, main bearing cap bolts, flywheel bolts, camshaft timing gear bolts, crankshaft pulley bolts, intake and exhaust manifold bolts, lug nuts, axle nuts, ball joint studs, and many other parts space would fail to mention. In other machines, like the generator, the wrench can be used to tighten or loosen spark plugs and lug nuts. How to use a torque wrench? The first thing you need to do when you are about to use a torque wrench is to loosen the fastener that is holding the set in place. The fastener is usually metallic or in plastic form and is located at the base of the wrench. On most occasions, the fastener is usually a different color from that of your wrench. Ensure you set the torque wrench to 0. Never below, never above. You do this by moving the fastener in an anti-clockwise direction until it is completely free and set at 0. The second thing to do when you are using a torque wrench is to look for the calibrations on the body of your wrench. This measurement is usually located at the handle part of the torque wrench. The wrench measurement is divided into two. There is the part calibrated in large number fonts and then there is the part with small number fonts. The small numbers are the measurement for foot-pounds while the large numbers are the measurement for meter kilograms. When this is done, you have to set your torque wrench to your desired measurement. How is this done? Hold the torque wrench with your passive hand and then move the dial slowly to the desired torque measurement. As you turn the dial in the clockwise direction, the torque setting number increases, and if you turn it in the opposite direction, the torque setting number decreases. As soon as you reach the number that is okay by you, do not turn the dial further. Note, if you want to get a torque value on your wrench, you should set it within 5 foot-pounds of that number. Let us say you are targeting 120 FTLB, you set your dial at 115 FTLB or 125 FTLB. Always refer to the user manual to know the exact torque amount that each nut or bolt needs. There is no rigid number you can set your dial to, it is not set in stone. Check to make sure you can do slight adjustments to the dial without moving the handle so that the smaller numbers are aligned. How do you measure the total torque required to put on the nut or bolt? When you are sure the dial and handle are set properly, you can do a little arithmetic to be sure of the amount of torque you will be applying on the nut or bolt. This is done by summing up the smaller and the larger number. Add the number on the dial that aligns with the number on the handle to get the amount of torque that should be applied. For example, if the number on the dial is 6 and the number that aligns with it on the handle is 70, this means that the total torque that would be applied is 76 foot-pounds (FTLB). This can also be used even if the numbers on the dial are on the left-hand side of the number line. If the dial is at -3 and the handle is at 90, the resultant torque value is 87 foot-pound (FTLB). Once you have settled the issue of setting the torque at the correct number, go back to the base and take care of the fastener. Slowly push it back in and tighten with your hands, hold the torque on your passive hand and tighten the fastener with the active hand in a clockwise direction. Once you are done, the fastener will stop moving. This also means that you can no longer change the torque number setting. Get the head or socket or adapter that is the perfect size for the head of your nut or bolt and put them into space at the head of the torque wrench. The majority of the available socket or adapter heads fit into any type of torque wrench. Get the nut or the bolt and slot them into the corresponding thread by hand. It is not wise to use the wrench at this point because the wrench has huge pressure, and this may cause the thread or the nut to wash, thereby wasting all your efforts. Put in the bolt or nut and turn by hand in the clockwise direction until the nuts or bolt cannot turn anymore. When this is done, use your active hand to place the head of the wrench, now with the socket or adapter, on the head of the nut or bolt and then turn the wrench with your passive hand. The turning should be clockwise and steady. Unlike other wrenches, you don't need to always return the torque wrench to its previous position before turning again. As soon as you hear a click sound, or a flash of light or a beep, depending on how the manufacturer of your wrench programmed it, this means that the set torque has been attained. Do not turn further. Old wrenches would stop moving altogether once the set torque is attained. Remove the torque and disconnect the socket from its head, go back to the handle and set it at point 0. You can now safely drop your wrench in the toolbox, awaiting another working time that would require you to use a torque wrench. If you've enjoyed this video, click the subscribe button below and hit the notification bell so you'll know once we post a new video. Also, drop a comment below so we can know your thoughts. Finally, don't forget to check the description below for more details and visit our site www.zimwrench.com for more awesome wrench content like this.